Let's call the meeting to order. We are all present this evening. This evening, our invocation will be given by Don Aylesworth, the chaplain at Integris Mass Baptist Hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray together. Let's stand.
Thank you.
Father in heaven, we bow in reverence before you. You're the creator of all that there is, and you're the one who has created us. And we pray tonight for your divine wisdom to be bestowed upon those who've been duly elected to govern over us here in the city of Enid. We pray that you would endow them, Lord, with great understanding, that as they make the decisions that are necessary in this body and in bodies like this all over this country, that, Lord, they would have the wisdom of Solomon. You would give them great patience, and that, Lord, that they would be able to live with those decisions, and that the people over whom they have been given this rule will have an understanding heart. So bless them, bless their families, and we thank you, Lord, for the United States of America and the freedom that we have. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Rob, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 4, consider approval of the minutes of the regular session of August 6th, 2013.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron.
Second.
Second by Mike. Please cast your vote.
I'm in trouble.
Yep, me too.
You can count me as a yes vote.
Did you guys know they only vote green now?
Motion carries 7-0. 5 lights. Next time, okay. Second time's a charm. Item 5, under awards, presentations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
I'm looking at him.
Aye.
Good evening. My name is Officer Jared Free with Enid Animal Control. With me, I have a lovable lab mix whose name is Daisy, and she is a very nice dog. She's going to get pretty much medium to large size, but she really needs a home. She became available, I think tomorrow is her available date. So I have many animals in the shelter that are available. She actually, I think, has a brother in the same pen with her. And they both do need good homes, and we got a lot of good dogs that need good homes as well, especially cats. So if y'all can get the word out, we do adopt. We love to adopt, and just come on up and take a look if you'd like to. If there's somebody that you know of that needs a pet, maybe for a birthday or something, come on up. Let's go ahead and get a dog for them. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Tell him first. Just go. It's Joan's birthday.
Under item 6, hearings, there are none. Item 7, community development. Item 7.1, there are none. Item 8, administration. Item 8.1, presentation regarding the 2014 local street program priorities. Chris?
Thank you, sir. As you know, we put in the budget for local street program to do some maintenance and some reconstruction of local streets. This is the presentation to give you the status of that effort and to inform you on the design process. The preliminary design is nearing completion, and this is the local streets funded out of street and alley. The way we get to these streets is Public Works provides engineering with a prioritized list based on condition of the road and what they see as traffic weight. We provide a design solution for those given roads and an engineering estimate. We sit back down with them, we do some consolidation and concurrence, and that becomes the list that we proceed with. We use two methods of reconstructing these roads. One is a concrete reconstruction. It provides us with a very good, long-duration road. Doesn't require a lot of maintenance. And in the event there's any utility maintenance underneath the road, those are very easy to repair with concrete. It's very difficult to, and they work well as basically sections. So it makes a repair, keeps the integrity of the road. We also use an asphalt overlay. If the curb and guttering is in good condition and there's not a drainage issue, this can be a way of getting a lot more surface for the same amount of money. It does improve the ride, but it does require a little maintenance. And we have also, the guys at Public Works are looking into another maintenance tool, material, which they'll speak to at the end of this presentation. This is the local street program. The ones that are in red are the ones that we've done in the past. And as you know, we are still in the process of working the FY 12-13 streets. The main reason for that is we had the contractor who was doing that. We asked him to pull off that particular piece of work to help us with the sidewalks and curb and guttering downtown to meet the opening date down there. So that put him a little bit behind, but he's catching up quick. We would expect him to be finished in a month or two. The 13-14 streets are circled in green, and those are the ones that will show a little more detail. This is France Avenue. You can see this is the football and the track at the high school. France is the road that runs on the south side. It runs parallel with the trail section in that area. That'll be a concrete reconstruction. The cost estimate is up there. It's a little under $450. The base of that road, i.e. the dirt underneath it and the compaction in the sub-base, is pretty much gone. So that requires that we pull the road out and rebuild it. The curb and guttering is such, we couldn't do an overlay either, because it would generate some drainage problems for us. This one is up on the north side. It's also a concrete reconstruction. It's Gregory Drive. This is Oakwood and Randolph right here. So that gives you an idea of whereabouts it's at. And this is 12th Street, and it'll also be a concrete reconstruction. We'll do Van Buren, Washington, and Oxford. You can see here's Highway 81 as it goes up north out of town. These will be an asphalt overlay. And the last set of streets we'll be doing will be the Evandale subdivision. Here's the mall, and here's Lowe's. So those are the streets that we've looked at. Based on those numbers, we're a little shy of what we think our budget is. We know the Public Works guys have tried a overlay material, maintenance material on a couple of streets, and they'd like to present that to you. Do you have any questions?
I do. I know,
Sure.
Chris, we had discussed, I believe it was in a study session a few meetings ago, but Broadway between, say, Washington and I think we were going over to what? Maybe
Yes, sir.
9th or 10th?
That's an arterial street. This is local street program, street and alley funded. Arterials are funded out of capital improvement, and so we'll be bringing those to you at some future date, the status of that.
And,
Yeah.
and we thinking that will probably fall within 13, 14, maybe?
It's a complicated matter.
It's a big street.
What we're having is the issue from Washington to Grand. That street is in pretty sad shape. There are some very old water lines under it. It's also very wide. So to keep my engineer effectively working at the efficient pace and keeping him loaded, I had him do the design work for roughly the railroad tracks east on Broadway while he was doing the local street program to get it to the point where we were ready to discuss the status with you. And then, once we've settled on this, and he finishes that, we'll roll him back into that particular section. That section bothers me in terms of cost and design. It's going to be a complicated fix.
Chris, what's the definition of an arterial street?
Usually section lines.
Second what?
Section line.
Section line? Okay.
What's the mechanism for public input to this local street list?
Rob?
Sorry.
The mechanism for public input for street and alleys is either through we accept input all the time, Commissioner. We lay that against the structural findings and the application of investigation. We sonar the streets to determine their roadworthiness. We also have that extended debate, as you know, in the budget cycle. But at any given time, any member can come in and make input to street priorities. It ultimately, obviously, it comes to you for application. And that is a function of how much it's funded, and you know that that's always a challenge. But the requirements always far exceed the need or the funding.
The ones that are on this list, how did they get picked?
Those were picked in concert with Public Works and Engineering. They have a data list on the streets and the conditions.
These are staff recommendations to the
Staff.
City Council.
A matrix, a weighted matrix with traffic count and condition and things like that, is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
In some previous years, we've been told that actually concrete and asphalt was virtually the same cost, but you indicated that asphalt now is cheaper than concrete?
It's starting to look that way, and we believe we're going to get over more surface, and it depends on the condition of the road. If you have to rebuild the road and you go back with an asphalt overlay, like a double layer of 4-inch asphalt, it's going to cost the same as concrete. If a road's in good condition, like some of the ones that we've picked, we should be able to get away with a 3-inch overlay.
Yeah.
Get away with the what?
3-inch overlay.
3? Okay.
Like I say, the asphalt overlay we put on West Broadway made a really good road out of it.
For about 5 years, unfortunately. And that's the distinction. It's the amount of time you get versus the cost benefit. And when we overlaid those in 2007, asphalt was about a third the cost of concrete. Now, for the last 2 years, they've been roughly the same. In fact,
Roughly the same.
concrete in some ways is cheaper. And it obviously has a far greater.
Well, it makes a better street, no question.
And it lasts longer. The inconvenience the people in that area a lot more, because when you build a concrete road, you can't.
Chris referenced his engineering challenge. What it's saying is that we have to make a very essential decision about whether or not we're going to remove and replace underground utilities before we overlay, or if we reconstruct a road. It's very plainly in our benefit not to put a brand-new road down over a very over a decaying underground line, because we have to tear that all up, and then we can't ever make it right again. And a mile of road is very expensive because we basically have to do 2 functions. But, the benefit of that is you're getting the utilities out of it.
Any other questions?
We do have some public discussion, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Driscoll, I believe you asked to speak. If you'd come and offer your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Lynn Driscoll. I live at 6615 East Phillips Avenue. And the reason I'm here tonight is I would like for each and every one of you maybe to reconsider the conditions of our roads in that area, because our neighbors, now my wife and I don't apply to this because our kids are through school. We have neighbor kids that happen to be in the Garber School District, even though we're in the city limits of Enid. And the school bus drivers are asking them to load their kids and please bring them into Breckenridge, because our school buses drivers can't even get down those roads. And we would just like for you to reconsider the conditions of our roads out there and make them feasible to where all of us can get to work and have a better lifestyle of living.
Mr. Driscoll, are you talking about 16th North from Breckenridge?
66th, East 66th and Phillips Road, which,
That's an unimproved road at that spot.
that's correct.
It's a dirt road.
That's correct. And we're having problems with our drainage areas out in that area because some of the fields are just level with the roads. So that's another issue with the drainage out there. So the water just stands in the roads and the edge of the fields. And I personally have a four-wheel drive, and it takes that to get off just a mile to the Breckenridge Blacktop. Over the 20 years that I've lived out there, there's no telling how many people I've had to go pull out because I have four-wheel drive. Because all those wives out in that area, and there's 11 families that's affiliated with that 66th road. I have to pull the wives out of the ditches constantly. And that's the reason I'm asking,
Between Willow and Breckenridge.
consider maybe doing something. That's all I have.
The improvement,
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 8.2.
Excuse me, Mayor. We do have some presentation on some stuff that Public Works is doing, the Quailwood Drive project.
Under 8.1.
Yes.
I apologize, Mr. Mayor, I jumped the gun. I forgot.
Okay. Back to you, Rob.
Mayor and Commissioner,
Jim?
City Manager. For several months, we've been looking and trying to find an alternate measure to repair some of our streets. To answer your question about an arterial street, what makes an arterial street different from a local street, traffic counts on an arterial street are 700 or higher a day. Okay, that's one of the main things we used to do, besides the section lines. So we have several arterial streets that's not on a section line, but they have a high traffic count. Local streets are strictly residential and are not judged by traffic counts. They're local where the houses are, and you get in your car, you drive through the collector streets to the arterial streets at that point. They're judged primarily by the investigation that we did about 3 years ago. All of our roads in town were filmed and tested, as the city manager put it, with the mechanism to check the depths, check the bases, film the alligator patterns, and what alligatoring is, and all of you have seen it. It's just little checks all through that asphalt, on an asphalt street. So all that's taken in consideration, and all those are given a particular count from 1 to 100 as far as value-wise. Well, an interesting thing, about 27% of our roads that we have that are asphalt, which is a sizable portion of the city, with a really good maintenance program and a maintenance material, can be saved. And the life of those particular roads can be increased 8 to 12 years, which is a substantial amount of road, at a fairly decent and reasonable cost to do that. Over the last year, we've investigated several different pieces of material in several different communities. We finally came up with one product that offers the answers that we are looking for. It's called MAQ. This product is used in the Tulsa County area. It's also used in several Missouri cities. And about 3 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to do a test project in the city. That project was about a mile long. We were able to do that and do a lot of restoration to that street, which was really not ever much of a street to start with, for $48,800. An incredible amount of money for the amount of work that was done. That's at Quailwood and also Rolling Oaks. It's 1 mile is what we did. It is a narrow street. It presents some really unusual problems, as do some of our streets in the community do. This street's 18 foot wide, not 22 foot wide, not 24, not 27. It has a drainage problem in the particular area, so there are no curbs and gutters, very few ditches. So whatever you do in there, you cannot raise the level of that property, or you're going to go right into the houses of the people who live in that particular area with stormwater. So it was quite a challenge to come up with a product that would increase the life of that particular street and not flood somebody out at the same time, and not create a superhighway where every semi and everyone else in the community drives through the streets to make a cut through to get over to Cleveland Street, not go down Willow Street. So we did that. We contacted the Donaldson Corporation. They came down and looked at the streets. I went up and looked at some streets in Tulsa, did some phone calls. We put together a project on the thing. We looked at the cost, set a date, did some minor repairs. Now, and I'm talking very minor. We did some asphalt patching. Doesn't make any difference with this product whether it's what you call a cold mix or a hot mix, and there is a difference as far as the application of putting it down. But the cold mix that we use is such a grade that it's acceptable in the particular process that we're doing. So could you pull up the Quellwood project? All right. As you see in the red, right here, that's Willow. It weaves in and out throughout this community over here, down the Rolling Oaks Drive, and then straight to Haven, just south of the railroad tracks. That's approximately 1 mile. We laid down a little over 11,000 square yards of this material. I want to show you what it looks like and what it's made up here. Now, we talked about alligator just a minute ago. That's what alligator looks like. That entire section and neighborhood is filled with alligator patterns. You can see here where we laid a section next to this right here. I tried to take some pictures before we got it all done in order to capture the before and the after. This is the before, and I'll get you a little better picture of what we have. Here's one of the areas right here that we fixed. Also, we did what they call a double seal in that particular area in order to bring it up to the same material. This picture right here is pretty well what that material looks like when it dries, about a 1/4 inch thick, extremely hard. And the modified aggregate quick mix, what it does, it actually bonds that existing asphalt together. It binds it together like a solid piece of poured concrete. It also fills that crack, see, and does what we call a crack seal, and fills the crack also, and leaves about a 1/4 inch layer on the top. And after that, when we did our patchwork, we tried to level it out as much as possible, and you get a pretty good street when you do that. This is the entryway into Rolling Oaks off of Cleveland. As you can see, this street's full of alligators all the way down. That's afterwards. That's Quellwood Drive right there. That's an extremely nice street now. And as you can see, the special problems that we have right in here, you cannot go in there and run a 3-inch overlay because you'll run the water right into people's houses because of the drainage problems we have. This is thin enough. It has the bonding abilities into it to pull that thing together and to hold it 8 to 12 years. An excellent material to use and extend the life of about 27% of our streets. At $3 and a few cents a square yard, it's very affordable to do that too. You're looking at $500,000. You're looking at spending, getting a return of about 6 to 7 miles. 6 to 7 miles is a lot of street. You're looking at $1 million a mile for concrete. Sure, it lasts for 30 years, but it's a 1 mile. And 1 mile on a arterial street, I think is well worth it because there's lots of cars use that arterial street. But on residential streets where we can extend the life of those streets by doing this kind of process without having to do it again is a good thing to look at. I think we haven't really maintained our streets well in the past because we've been thinking about those concrete streets and those 3-4 inch asphalt streets because we didn't have a product that was good enough to go in there and bond that stuff together to increase the life. We do today. And we tested everything to find out too.
Now, Jim, one of the issues with this is that while it has great application on residential streets, it doesn't have application on arterials because of the weight restrictions and the size of vehicles that go through it. This wouldn't stand up to oil field traffic, in other words.
It will not stand up to a great amount of truck traffic. You know, a truck does a lot of damage. A truck's equal to 18,000 cars a day running over a piece of pavement. 18,000 cars. So if you count the trucks at Van Buren and Garriott that come through there, it would blow. It's astronomical. So that's the kind of damage trucks do.
And Jim, what was the length of this whole project?
This right here is just a little over 9/10 of a mile.
9/10
It's 4,900.
And the total cost was how much?
$48,800.
Yeah, so clearly it's a beneficial application in those areas where it's applicable, and we're going to continue to use it.
Absolutely.
Are there any prep costs involved and to get adhesion? How does that bond with that?
It is a mixture that is a patented mixture that this company came up with a few short years ago.
And it says it's got a longevity of 8 to 12 years.
Yes.
But it hasn't been out that long?
It has been out about that long.
And have we seen any streets that are of that age?
Yes, where you have a local street and you don't have that truck traffic street, it is holding up well. It's holding up the longer life of it.
I think the question is where have we used this before in Enid?
We have not used this before in Enid. This is the first time. In other cities, Tulsa County has used a lot of it. In other cities in Missouri, they're primarily a Missouri company.
And our intent, now that we've seen the success of this test pattern here, we're going to apply this across a lot more neighborhood streets. So we now have a product that we can address some real concerns. And it does, as Jim mentioned, it has a moderate pothole filling capability.
It does. It's a 1/4 inch thick, actually. So if you have any potholes, we go in before that application is done, and we do some filling, minor amount of work. It was one day to do this whole 1 mile here before they came in and did it. So there wasn't a lot of people out there, and there wasn't a lot of product put down. So with a little bit of work on our parts and making sure that the edges of the road are graded, knocked down as far as the height of the dirt and the grass, it does a good job. It does a good job on, like I said, about 27% of our streets where we had this kind of activity going on. We have a lot of streets in town that were never built to original city specs to start with because they were brought into the city limits after, back during the 80s and the 70s and this type of thing. Now, before, what we used to use is what they call a slurry seal. Slurry seal did not have the bonding properties at all. It was like mixing a little bit of small rock and some oil together, and it was kind of okay. It was kind of well, it's actually a heavy paint more than it was anything else. But it looked good. Yeah, short term, and it looked good in a year or two. And if you put it on a really nice street, it would look nice and stay okay for 3 years. It's strictly a maintenance product too, but we got to building a lot of streets out of it. And you can't build streets out of slurry seal.
Jim, what is the name of the product again?
Called MAQ.
MAQ?
MAQ, We plan on using a lot of that and step up our maintenance program a little bit so we've got some streets that we can extend the life of and not be sitting back here 50 or 100 years trying to get street work done. It just doesn't.
At that price, you can do a lot of streets.
You can do a lot of streets. If you took the whole project money that's been set aside for local streets, you'd be doing several miles. Now, I'm not trying to say that that's what we need to do, but we need to use part of it, and we need to step our maintenance up and save those miles that we can, so that the miles that we do in the areas that do get that reconstruction and that utility move and stuff like that are really where it needs to be done. Is there any questions from anyone?
Jim, let's talk about sealant on unimproved roads to control dust. What options exist?
We've looked into that. That's a really difficult thing to get an answer for. We've got about 12 miles of unimproved roads that we've rocked, and of course, that makes it an all-weather road. You can get in and out any time of the year, whether it's rain or just whatever. Sand roads, while they're really good, when it rains, they just kind of turn to slop, and the bottom drops out, okay? So we started rocking some roads here about 3 years ago and come up with some pretty good roads. However, the downside to that is you have a lot of white dust, and that's not really real good. But that's the downside that you're giving up something there for something else. What we can do now, after they've been down 3 to 5 years in that rock, we can go in and take the existing rock off and roll that thing and do what we call a chip and seal. Those roads don't have near the traffic on them either, and it eliminates your dust. The cost for chip and seal is somewhat similar to the cost that we're looking at right here also. And we've got about 12 miles of that we could do that with too. The application here, we're talking about 48.8, was done by this company. We had no involvement in putting that stuff down, and don't anticipate nor want to, because it takes a lot of special type of equipment to do it. And I think making that kind of an investment would defeat the purpose. These people are professionals, and as you can see, they really did a good job. They didn't slop that stuff over in the nice concrete driveways or anything else, and I think the neighborhood is pretty happy about it.
I haven't heard otherwise, and
I'm sure I would have heard.
So we're happy we found a product that we can use to help increase the life of a lot of our streets now. We're looking forward to doing that. We're looking forward also in the coming years to do some chip and seal on some roads that we've already switched over to the rock, and removing some of that rock and rolling on and putting some chip and seal. And we can contract, we can do some contracts in some areas with the county, some of that, and North Enid, for example. If they do so, we could go at the same time.
And we are cooperating with, on a cost-share basis with North Enid for the repair of 16th Street north of, it would be Purdue to, Carrier Highway.
So that gives us an opportunity to combine forces and take care of the problems that we border on with other communities too.
We're going to continue to look for that sealant to control the dust on the rock road.
We are. They've got a product out there, it's called, and pardon what I'm about to say, it's called Gorilla Snot. But it doesn't last long. It's a product that you may get 6 months out of. And its cost of putting it down is not far away from the chip and seal. So chip and seal is the best way to go as far as a little more permanent type fixtures. You still have to fix potholes when one pops up. And trucks will tear it up eventually. It'll last a while, but it's a pretty good product. In fact, on Willow, from Garland west, that's chip and seal. That's probably a couple applications of chip and seal. So that's a good one to judge by if you're out that way and you see that. That's all that is chip and seal.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, Rob? Okay. Item 8.2, presentation regarding the pedestrian trail project. Chris?
Yes, thank you. What we'll do is we'll bring also an update for the trail project. It'll come in two parts. The first part will be done by the project engineer, Morali, and the second part, which is the part about getting the trails downtown, I will present. Morali?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners and City Manager. It's a overall update today, what's going on trails. So far, we completed phase 1, 2, 3, 4 to date. Phase 5 consists of 4 items. One is a signal at Van Buren and trail crossing. The second one, the trail going south to Middle Lake. The third one is from Oakwood to Garland along the half-section line. The fourth one is from where on France Street, where it ends, Francis and Washington, or goes to downtown. That's the fourth item. If you see overall map, this is the overall trail master plan. And the red highlights so far what we have done. And you can see some numbers, new trails and linkage trails, and current we are 3.5 miles we are done so far. This is a zoom-in portion of the existing trail system. The purple is phase 1 and 2, red and yellow are phase 3 and 4. The green is the one we are working on right now, that's phase 5. As you can see, this is the signal area, Van Buren, and the trail, that's the ballpark right there. This is 4-channel, park, this is another 4-channel. This is another trail, Oakwood and Garland, and this is going to downtown. Those are the 4 items the current year. So far on the schedule, the Van Buren crossing signal, the AE engineer on board, it's a TEC, and we have done the pre-design meeting, and he's working on getting a study done probably early part of next week. So the result of that one will get a warrant. It basically justifies whether we need a pedestrian signal or not in that crossing. So depend upon that, you can see the construction timeline.
Say that again, please.
Sorry?
Say that again.
Okay, next week, in the coming next week, a TEC is going to do a traffic count and study there in that intersection. Result of that intersection study, we will get a warrant, basically the justification whether we can have a signal or not. So the engineering firm is going to provide that.
At what location?
At Van Buren.
Yeah, this is for the line.
And you're talking about justification to ODOT?
Yes, because of the highway.
So you're saying we all need to go walk back and forth in that trail 8 or 10 times a day?
Or try to cross the street?
Or watch where you're going?
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry, you're counting people crossing the street or cars crossing?
Both.
Good.
Followed by the Roop Trail going to, Roop and Mid Lake. And followed by the one Oakwood and downtown.
Is all of the right-of-way purchased?
No, sir. There are two property owners. One with one we already been purchased. The other one we have final negotiations done. It's a matter of final documentation preparation.
Well, the trail from Oakwood to Garland, assuming we go ahead and complete that, where's the trail going to go from there?
It goes to north, along I can show it goes between Walmart and the neighboring west, so it goes to Garriott.
In other words, we're going to have to, at that point, find a way to get across Garriott Road, or
Yes,
is it going to go down Garland to use a crossing there?
At this time, we have to cross Garriott, but we don't have any plans right now.
And then lo and behold, we'll have another crossing issue.
Well, I know, I personally don't see where we're gaining very much by going ahead and extending the trail there, because it doesn't really go anywhere. I still would like to see the trail have some destinations other than just ending up at a street somewhere and us not having any plan to take it beyond that.
Commissioner, your point's well taken. The problem is, with the funding that we have available this year, we are constrained on what we can do. To accomplish it in this year, one of the questions we're going to ask you tonight is, of these three options, we're going to tell you where they are, what the cost is going to be in a timeline, and it's very obvious what options are going to exist for you to accomplish this year. I share your opinion that crossing Garriott and crossing Van Buren are going to be considerations, and it might be that you either commit to some ultra expensive solutions like a tunnel or a bridge over the top of them, or you simply end the trail at those locations. Those are really the options if you want to safely cross traffic. Now, we'll come back to you with the findings of our study and the reaction of ODOT, which, we know that any on-demand light on a major highway like that, a state highway in particular, is going to have traffic implications.
Sure.
That has to be balanced against pedestrian safety. But you have, at this stage of this proposal, I'm sorry, let me back up here. At this stage of the plan, you really have three options to consider if you want to tie into existing trails. Now, if you want to go off this grid and build a trail elsewhere, that's your other option. But we're somewhere down the pike on planning and preparation for this next extension. So these three options are available. One is the mile section, and that would be from Oakwood to Garland, right?
Yes, sir.
Raleigh? And then the extension along the core channel from Roop down to Meadow Lake Park. Both have been identified in previous strategies as necessary. Now, if you want to extend from France to the downtown, each has its own appeal, but the latter one, the France to downtown, has some critical challenges in real estate and right-of-way acquisition. Now, we are pursuing those real estate acquisitions to encourage that and enable that development, but that's going to be time-consuming and unlikely that we'll get that done in this budget year. So you fall back to then what you can do from westward expansion from Oakwood or southerly along the core channel. The easiest one and the first one, the lowest hanging fruit, is the core channel trail to Meadow Lake. And then after that is the expansion west to Oakwood. Did I catch that right, Morale?
I probably should be the last one to complain, because virtually all of the trail is in my ward. Me and Mr. Stuber. And, and that's why, I'm concerned about if we want to continue for the trail system to have popularity with the whole city, we need to get it in some other areas of the city.
I absolutely agree, and I'd like to see this, and I think we talked about this during our budget hearing not just a couple months ago, which is why that $2 million number got thrown out there for trails. We want to see it connected downtown, because that goes somewhere, and that opens up a lot of possibilities. If we get to downtown, and we get across Garriott, there are a lot of options for heading east and getting a really densely populated part of our community connected to a really great, not just recreational tool, but frankly, a mode of transportation. I mean,
Well, and
it's
the east
getting
side,
across town.
The college is already built.
That's the second part of this, is
So-
the universities, and I think everyone needs to go out there and look at it. They did a phenomenal job between the Northwestern campus and the NOC campus. A nice 10-foot wide concrete path with built-in lights along the side, and it's gorgeous, and I'd like to see us connected to that.
It's also only 300 yards long, and therein lies the problem. But, you know, there are specific challenges going through neighborhoods. Each individual owner has a right-of-way obligation, and we have to
Sure.
require this.
If we go through neighborhoods, I mean, the other option through this heading east, and we're about to do it anyway with the engineering of Broadway. I mean, Broadway is a really wide road from downtown east. And I know once upon a time, there was some idea of putting concrete rails in the middle, and everybody hates it, and I think that's a horrible idea too, but I'm not saying that. But going along, pick the north side, pick the south side of Broadway, I don't care which one, but carve off 10 feet on either the north or south side, and we don't have to buy an inch.
I understand that, and I think what we're confusing is what we're available and
Sure.
what's within our grasp this year versus the strategic
Well,
expansion of the
Chris,
trails.
give us your presentation on the downtown. I know that's I saw the next slide.
I have a question.
Before we move on, I want to ask another question.
And I would like to get.
I have one too. Go ahead, Ron.
On the section there around the drainage ditch there into Meadow Lake Park, we've got part that's never been paved at all.
Right.
Then we've got the part that extends into the park.
Yes, sir.
That is a narrower
It's a 5 feet, yeah.
trail, and it's also been chopped up a bit by some of the things that's been done, you know, to make access to other property there. Are we going to, are we going to 10-foot it all the way to the parking lot, or are we just talking about from the end of the existing trail?
I think we'll stop at the city property, yeah. We are going to stop at where it narrows down 5 feet.
Okay, what about the sections that have been damaged or fenced off or whatever?
That will be repaired by the contractor, because that's a part of a elevated water tank project.
Well, and there was one area there that I don't think the city ever paved, that was just an access road into the park.
That might be, we have to fix it.
With this phase that in green, that will encompass a 10-foot trail from Meadow Lake all the way up to,
The existing, yeah, 5 feet, yeah.
now, another item here, you have to consider, how do people access their trail? Well, they can't everybody walk out their back door and jump on the trail unless you live in this area. But you have a trailhead that was designed to gather cars and parking and be able to spread from there. The other one, it goes to a very large, well-used and ample parking available park. And you can go there, then you can access almost 6 miles of trail.
Going west.
That's right. Now, what we're offering you tonight is 3 options, and this is what we're asking you to tell us what you want to do. You can continue the trail from Oakwood to Garland. You can continue the trail to Meadow Lake, but there's no way that we can acquire an expansion of the trail in this budget year from France along Grand to Garriott. Now that, we agree that's a priority. It just can't be achieved this year.
You mean, are you talking about from a time standpoint or from a cost standpoint?
Well, the time standpoint, to execute, we cannot execute it in this budget year.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, we're not suggesting that it doesn't remain a priority, but I will tell you that there's no way we can complete it this year with what we have to acquire before we can even start the design.
We've all known that. And as somebody, I was involved in at least the initial master plan design, you know, with the group that came up. And the initial intent was to connect, you know, shopping and, you know, the entertainment and different areas of town all together. And going to Garland, it does at least do that, you know, for the existing trail, rather than going and having a, you know, putting a mile out in the middle of nowhere where it doesn't connect to anything.
And Morali, what, with the funding that we've identified this year, what can be achieved between those 2 elements, the Meadow Lake and the Garland extension? Is it an either-or proposition, or can we do one and part of another, or both of them?
I think we can do both of them.
And there's the good news.
But what does that leave for acquiring property to get to downtown?
Well, then that means in next year's budget cycle, you'll have to acquire that as we make, we'll have to dovetail those, and it may require a budget supplement before the end of the year.
I think we have another option. We can build a lot of trails and never have to cross Garriott. By crossing Garriott, we're talking about headaches forever. Build a trailhead north of 412, somewhere, and we've got all kinds of parking downtown. Why cross Garriott? We're talking about 3 times right now to cross Garriott, and you're talking about millions of dollars to cross that, and months of engineering. Build another separate trail system on the north side of 412. We don't have to connect all of them together. The one that's being used right now, and when you finish the 2 green areas, about 1.5 miles, you're going to take care of a lot of people. Build a trail somewhere on the north side of 412. And forget about crossing Garriott. It isn't going to do anything but get heavier, the traffic. Van Buren the same way. And you're dealing with ODOT, you're dealing with the federal government, and you're dealing with a lot of things that you don't really have control over. They're going to tell us those roads were there a lot longer than your trails. So you might as well call time out and look at another plan. I know that's not what we're talking about, but I'll never see it in my lifetime when you connect all those trails together.
Well, I more than anything want to see, we're so close to downtown. We're just within spitting distance.
As long as you cross Garriott, Ben, in my opinion, yours is different, perhaps, and that's fine. You still have a major problem crossing Garriott.
But the compromise there, Mr. Mayor, is you can cross at a major intersection.
Yes.
Grand and Van Buren. And the joggers and the walkers have to understand that they don't have priority crossing the state highway. They got to wait for the light.
Well, I agree with you. Common sense is going to have to dictate that, but that doesn't always work.
But I agree with the
To me,
mayor.
I don't have any problems of not crossing. I have a problem in crossing Garriott. Every time you want to cross Garriott, if you do it at a stoplight, fine.
If you want to actually get anywhere in town, you've got to drive your car and park, and then go, and then drive your car and park. I mean, you really can't get anywhere unless, I mean, basically you're separating. I'm going to completely disagree. I think that's, well, it will cost money to cost.
Ultimately, you can do that, but what we're talking about tonight is what we're going to accomplish this year.
You're going to have to have an Olympic. You're going to have an Olympian to get on all these trails, Mike. You run or walk 3 or 4 miles. Now you can do it on a bike, but if you're running 3 or 4 miles, well, you can drive a
The whole
car.
point of the trail system is to connect all together. That's the whole point. And we've known forever that O&K Garriott and Van Buren existed, and we've known forever from the beginning of this project that somehow we're gonna have to screw around with getting across them. So I think that's completely irrelevant right now. And we threw money at this last year because we all talked about it out loud that we wanted to get downtown.
Yeah, and I think $2 million.
Now, not
can
in
get
3 years, now.
Yeah.
Well, and I cannot craft you that solution tonight, Commissioner. What I'm telling you is this year, you can complete this 5th phase between Oakwood and Garland along Roop and south to Meadow Lake. There is no way we can achieve getting to downtown along Grand in this budget
We
cycle.
know we can't build it, but we can start the process of getting
That's
it
already
built.
begun. The process of acquiring real estate and that sort of stuff, that's
all we're
already
talking about.
happened.
Yep.
What we're talking about achieving in this budget cycle are those other two, that's what the question tonight is. Well, that's what the brief tonight is, preparing for the question.
We've got 2,000 parking spaces downtown, or will have. And that's not that hard to get downtown in Enid, Oklahoma if you want to walk somewhere.
Well, I agree with what's been said here, that, I just want that us to be making plans to get it downtown. We've been talking about it for a couple of years, and I want to see something actually concrete happen to get the trail going downtown this fiscal year.
And
I
and
agree.
What we're referring to is acquiring property. We know that
That
there's not gonna be
process is in
concrete.
work. What-
Okay.
Well, but what I don't understand is what you're saying, if we do the other 2 green sections, we're going to tap out our trail money for this year, buying that property,
Should be
a
included.
huge chunk of that can happen this year, I think should happen this year, and we'll take some of that money. I mean, my preference would be to see this Meadow Lake chunk taken care of. I think that's a great section. Engineering's done, it's close. And I'd like to see those dollars put towards getting that property acquired. I mean, if we have extra money to do at the end of the year, to do a budget surplus, and I think we will, I'm thrilled, but I don't want to rely on that to get to the trails. When we, during the budget hearing, told people we were going to get trails this year, and we were going to put $2 million towards it to downtown, I'd like to see more movement there. And maybe there's a reason I don't understand,
I'm gonna
I
have to disagree with that a little bit, because I never agreed we should go downtown first, and I still don't. Last Saturday, after the Tour de Trikes thing, I got on my bike and went and rode every inch of the current trails. And the mayor and I spent a nice afternoon driving in the car to go to each end of it also to take a look at the trails. And I didn't see one single person on those trails that were headed to downtown to eat dinner or headed to Walmart to go shopping. What people on the trails were doing were jogging as far as you could go or riding their bike as far as you could go, and that was the destination for them in a sense. So it makes a lot more sense to me that we pursue the property purchase to maybe head downtown, but as we've said, to go downtown, you're going to get in your car and drive down there, park in one of the 2,000 spots that there are. And then we could start downtown and go the other direction. When you walk that area, and the mayor and I drove it, but then when you go back and walk between the end of that trail into the downtown, that is going to be a nightmare to go that direction. That's going to cost $5 or $6 million, in my opinion, to buy the property and make that go. And it's not an area of town that I want to necessarily walk or ride my bike down through to get to downtown either. I'd rather go the other way and drive. But if we add the trails now on the ground that I think our public wants us to do, and as I think we promised them, we're going to spend $2 million to get some concrete on the ground, makes a lot more sense to go to Meadow Lake, which is going to be very useful. And going north up towards the mall is fine, but more people will be able to pull in and park at the mall, get on the trails and ride for 5 miles like I did on Saturday and enjoy that than if we blow all this money buying property to go downtown.
But I did the same thing last night, getting from the east side of town. The only way to get to the trails, unless you want to drive and park somewhere, which almost defeats the purpose, is to go through downtown and then deal with that ugly chunk. I mean, I think that's not a real attractive area
Where are you talking about?
Well, until we
to
can
get from
get,
downtown to France.
I can't get to it anywhere from my house.
I mean, until we can go completely
neither
around the
can he.
town, you're going to have to drive to those areas, which is another thing that needs to be addressed, because there's really not, for instance, the place on Oakwood, you just park in the dirt. I mean, and then I walk across Oakwood and get on my bike and ride, and it's great from there. I mean, the trails are gorgeous. I can't tell you how nice of an afternoon that, or morning that was.
And in time,
But they need to,
all of your desires will be achieved. I am quite confident we can do that. What we're telling you is in this budget year, while we simultaneously acquire, and we have been pursuing that option for some time, we have the option to complete two very major arteries of this trail system while we continue to progress towards the next expansion.
I'm in favor of doing that.
I just don't know how we pay for it.
Well, we'll provide you with those options, and if we have to defer those until next budget year, or if you want to do a budget supplemental, we can do that. But I think we have the funds to start that. It's been in work for some months now, so we've already done some of it.
I have one suggestion, that when we start buying that property, we better be talking to the railroad too, because you sure don't want that trail next to the.
Well, we have been talking to the railroad, Mr. Mayor,
And I
there is
wouldn't
unique
want,
challenges.
I wouldn't want to walk within 20 feet of that railroad track. And they, to me, Grand is the street that you've got to go down and not next to the railroad.
And we're going to present you those options of extending that trail that direction. And let me throw you another curve. What if neither of those are feasible? Why wouldn't you then go up Independence, for example, instead of Grand?
Sure.
There are other options that we have yet to define, but we're pursuing those. So giving you any kind of finite detail tonight is, we understand your concerns, we share your desires, but we're unable to tell you with finite detail what those are going to be before the end of the budget year.
That's only fair.
I mean, one consideration in all this, of course, is we have a pedestrian-controlled crossing across Garriott in place right now. It's right there. And if there was a way to jog the trail over from at some point where it is to that, then I don't know how much
Solved the problem.
money and time we
That is,
save, but
that's one of those other options that we're going to consider.
How about if I walk you through my presentation?
I'd love to see it.
Okay.
We're going to get to deal with what fire
Yeah,
chief.
actually, Chris is going to show that we've already thought of this stuff, and let's have a chance to see it.
Fire away.
Thank you. Obviously, this portion of this status briefing is to give you an idea on what we've looked at and how to get from France to downtown with the trails.
Should have done that presentation first.
Well, I didn't think I should interrupt you, sir. First and foremost, how are we going to get across Garriott? We have to decide that. We have to have end in mind before we start. We have to know where we're going. Important part. We feel it is imperative that we utilize existing traffic control lights. It saves us from having to fight with ODOT. And to give you an idea, we'll inform you and provide discussions on the routes that we have looked at. First and foremost, how do we get across Garriott? These are the 4 lights that are currently there. As you can see, there's one here by the hospital, and then there's the one here by the administrative building, which is right outside here. And then there's Independence, and there's Grand. Those were the 4 crossings that we looked at. Monroe Street over by the hospital. On the south side of the street, the sidewalk in the street is very congested. For example, on the east side of Monroe, there's parallel parking. There's no way to put a trailer. And on the west side, it's very limited as well. Adams Street, right outside here, it requires that we upgrade the pedestrian light. Because otherwise, the impact to traffic will be very significant, and we would probably run into a few roadblocks with that. We looked at Independence. On the south side, you could probably make it. It does give us access to the soon-to-be green space on the north side. Over at Grand, once again, you get access to the green area. And we have a little bit of property on that side, on the south side of O&K on Grand. From the criteria that we use to evaluate these, we believe that crossing at Grand is the right place to go. This is kind of what it would look like. You're coming up from State Street to Grand. There's a traffic control light right there, already in place. Green space will be on the north side. Yeah, there's no real trails on the north side, but it gets our pedestrians safely across, and it's just a few blocks from there to downtown. As far as routes, understand that as we go through this, we're starting at France, which is south of the Enid High School football stadium. We've looked at going north, straight north on Independence Avenue, come up to State Street, which is right here on the south side of this building, jog over to Grand, get across. The alternative route is at Illinois, go over to Grand, and then come up. Basically, what they look like is this. The green line is Independence, this is State, and of course, this is Grand. Now, we've not done all the necessary investigation on these 2 routes. And there's a lot of things that we'll have to go and address, and there'll be property owners that we'll have to talk to. For the Independence route, we start at France, go around, go straight up Independence, go all the way to State, to here, and jog over. We're looking at approximately 17 independent property owners. The right-of-way there appears to be somewhat larger, and that's based on, if you'll look at the current sidewalks on that particular street, how far set back from the curb they are, which tells me that we may be able to get away with not having to buy a lot of right-of-way. The one thing we do have to be considerate of is now we're talking about putting a trail on a residential frontage. They come out their front door, and there's the trail. We cross their drive with the trail. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. We have to be considerate. The other route we looked at was Grand. To obviously start at France again, run up to Illinois, which is the same as the beginning route of the other side, and then jog over on Grand. The things that we found that could present some problems is obviously there's two large commercial owners in that area. There's a potential right-of-way, railroad right-of-way in this area. We don't know that for a fact, but we're in the process of digging that out. And then there's the potential of a brownfield.
Potential of what?
Brownfield. Brownfield, can you help me with that?
Brownfield grant requires that you do an environmental assessment, phase 1, before you take title. So we would have to get permission from the property owner to do that phase 1. Once that is complete, then we can actually take title, but then we have to do the assessment, or the second phase of the assessment, then cleanup, then construction. The EPA only allows $200,000 per year per grant, so it could be up to a 3-year process before it's clean and able to be constructed on.
Thank you.
No problem.
And what area are you talking about there?
As far as the brownfield potential?
Yeah.
Anything on that east side where there's all that industrial work?
On Grand.
On Grand.
Not independent.
Not independent.
When you cross Garriott, do you use the current sidewalks on Grand or Independence? Let's say Grand. Once we build a sidewalk,
Essentially found
or do you build another 10-foot pad?
Well, eventually you'd want to build a full 10-foot trail heading north. It's just a question of which side of Grand,
We're going to put the sidewalks in before the trail.
then if you are, and that's what we want to do, then yeah, you'd
I
put.
know. When we finish the parking spaces, aren't we going to put the sidewalks and make it a 4-lane street from Garriott to the event center?
I have to go look. I have to double check on that.
That's in the long-term plan. Yeah.
That's a very
Well,
long.
what's long-term mean?
Well, beyond this budget year.
I'm not being cute.
But what
You're talking about 3 years, just do the study. And that's
If we go that route.
2017.
if you go up Grand and try to acquire that commercial property, and if
From France.
Yes, if you
From
remain on
France.
the east side of Grand, from France to Garriott, that's what he's talking about.
I-
There's another option, Chris, talk about the west side of Grand.
Grand? Well, we've looked at the west side of Grand. The right-of-ways don't appear to be quite as sufficient, as large. Will it be a brownfield? I don't know. A lot of it's private property. It's about the same number of property owners that we'd have to talk to.
But I think there's, a lot of that property is going to have to be acquired. It doesn't appear to me that there's, if we're going to build a 10-foot trail in front of somebody's house, it doesn't sound like a practical solution to me.
Going up Grand or going up Independence?
Well,
Or either.
Either one of them. I mean, we're going to have to acquire some property there. I'm not saying I don't want to do it. I'm saying there's going to be some property that's going to have to be acquired. We're not going to be able to do it on existing right-of-way.
So now we've heard all the reasons why going downtown sucks, but let me ask you, the people that were here when you started this process, what was your original plan to get there? Because you knew it was going to go there eventually. So why then was it okay,
The
but now
plan
it's
is
not
to
okay?
acquire some property.
Yeah.
It can be done, it's just not gonna be done this year.
Not going to be done
I
cheap.
mean, this just all sounds very impossible,
Well,
but.
no, I think it's challenging, but it can be done. It's
I
a
mean,
question of how much we want to
It's being
spend
presented as
and
it's a
what.
big, huge pain in everybody's.
Well, if you go tomorrow down Grand and look on the west side of the road, the properties there, they're for the most part rental. And our initial discussions indicate that there might be some opportunity for purchase there. But we're still in those exploratory phases. And I'm quite certain this discussion tonight is jacking those prices up as we speak. And the opportunity to go on the west side, the east side of Grand, crossing a commercial property with plans to expand across railroad right-of-ways and brownfields, in my mind, is a non-starter because it's a 3-year process at a minimum. And that's assuming that you can get through the process, then you can acquire the right-of-way.
Well, to be fair, that's only a 3-year process if you go for that money. If we pay for it out of pocket and don't seek a brownfield grant.
You still have to mitigate the brownfield impact. Now, the other option is if you simply cross the street, you don't have the brownfield impact. You also have a smaller impact, and as Chris has indicated, we have a different kind of right-of-way acquisition problem. We can do any of this if we want to meet the requirement for the price. And we intend to bring you back those options. But in this funding cycle, what we're hoping to get from you and when we come to decision time is to pursue 2 of the 3 options that are on the table tonight. This one we can't achieve in this budget cycle.
Clearly, we've made that clear, but I guess my point is, when you guys started this process, you didn't just draw arbitrary lines around town. You knew, we knew this was gonna come up eventually. So, but now, I'm just saying, in 3 or 5 or however many years down the road, are you not gonna be having the same problem that you have today?
With,
This isn't, none of that's moving. It's still gonna be the same problem. So what I'm saying is, originally when this was planned, you had to know this was coming. So why is it
Absolutely. But
impossible
we didn't
today?
specify we've
But
gotta
it's
purchase
it's
this
always
piece of
gonna remain
property.
impossible. It's always gonna be impossible.
we knew that we wanted to get downtown, but we didn't say we are buying this property. It was, it was rough scale.
You had a
It
plan,
was
and
not.
they were not arbitrary lines. You knew this was coming. You knew this was gonna be a problem.
I'm sorry, I don't think that anyone's saying that this is impossible. No one has said this is impossible.
I'm just saying,
We've
in
only
5
said-
years, are you gonna have the
Tammy,
same conversation?
We've only said
2
it's,
of you are talking at the same time.
no one has said it's impossible. We've only said it's expensive.
Right.
And again, we all, going into this, knew it was expensive, but
Right.
desirable nonetheless. And also, I kind of thought that part of the impetus, and I know that we don't all agree, but part of the impetus for trails being budgeted $2 million in this fiscal year was because we knew there was a big, ugly, expensive mess that we wanted to tackle head on.
Exactly.
So
one of the reasons I
I'm
was-
thrilled, and I understand, Eric, that it's going to be difficult and that this isn't the desirable chunk for this fiscal year, but if we blow that $2 million going other directions,
We gotta
how
come
are
up
we
with it
not
again.
just punting this down the road a fiscal year?
That's what I'm saying. In 3 years, we're gonna be having the same conversation.
Because this trails plan has always included an expansion to Garland. From day one, this plan has included the expansion from Oakwood to Garland.
Sure.
This sitting body added this new particular about getting downtown in this budget year. We're simply telling you that the strategic plan remains available, but it can't be funded in this year.
Totally
What we will
understand.
bring you back is a plan to do the other 2 portions of this trail. We will continue to research options. We'll bring you those opportunities back in the next budget cycle. Or if they progress quicker than we assume, we'll bring you a budget supplemental at the end of the year, and you can decide if you want to appropriate the appropriate funds towards it.
I'm just reluctant to spend that money going out to Garland when, again, we told everybody, $2 million.
Well,
if we wanna
the
get downtown.
commission before you, Commissioner, said they were going the other
But
direction.
Eric, that's what this fiscal year commission decided.
No,
I'm
we
not-
didn't.
No, you
we didn't. I'd
Sorry,
like to see the
excuse me.
minutes that prove that, Ben, because we.
You're right. No, David, you're right.
Commissioner Jansen said, I would like to see us go down.
Wait a minute,
He's the only one
you're both talking at the same time.
He stopped.
You're right, I misspoke. We did not make that decision. We have, what I intended to say, I apologize. We have the opportunity to make a different decision tonight.
You do.
We are not bound by last year's commission preference to go to Garland. And so all I'm saying is, I want to go downtown. I'm not ready to blow all our money for this fiscal year going elsewhere. And you can't tell me that it's not going to be any simpler if we have that money available to do it.
Nor can I tell you that we can do it at all. But what I can tell you is that we can complete the other standing strategic route in this budget year, and we can continue your priority to go downtown. I don't think we need to stagnate the plan because we don't know what it's going to take to get downtown via grant. Well, that is achievable, but I can't tell you today how much it's going to cost or even if you can execute it this year. What I can tell you is that we know with current budget processes and cost estimates that we can do the other 2 elements. they're always and will remain a part of the strategic plan for the trails. Let's complete those while we acquire the opportunity to go down to the downtown.
How long is it going to take you to have some better idea of what it's going to take to get downtown? I mean, what's the time frame to have? I mean, it feels right now like
I think we
there
can
are options
give you.
without.
I think it probably no more than 180 days. We can give you a much stronger feel for that. Now, it's much like the downtown properties. We've been 3 years in acquiring them.
Sure.
So you may want to go that way, but somebody may stop us from going. But that's a process that we will embrace and resolve, just as we've done the other elements in the downtown acquisitions, and we'll do it to the satisfaction of the city and the landowners.
If I may.
Yeah,
Our
all
plan-
all of us are going to be here a few more years, and I think we'll have an opportunity to pursue this as we go forward. I don't have any problem with doing what you've proposed here. I think we definitely need to finish the part in the park, need to do that, should have done that 5 years ago, and then I'm willing to spend the money going to Garland, even though I don't think it's the best route, but I just want us to be working on moving toward downtown.
That is a priority for staff.
That's
Sure,
what
I
we
assure
need
you
to
that's-
do,
is
and
remaining.
I think we've come to that conclusion tonight.
What did you start to say, Chris?
If I may.
Wait a minute. David had something he wanted to say before we're all talking at the same time.
No, I think I said, because I agree that downtown is an ultimate goal, but I just think that people want to see, for their $2 million, they want to see some concrete poured in the next 12 months, not some unidentified properties and engineering work going on trying to accomplish a quarter-mile section that's going to be very difficult with that money. I think we need to get it in concrete, in the ground, and like I said, if you go out and ride the trails, more length is what we need, not the destination. What we need is length. People are using it to exercise, to ride their bikes, to jog, to walk their dogs. I mean, like I said, I didn't see anybody going shopping or heading downtown to go to a
Because
show.
there's nowhere to go yet. If
You gotta get there
if it went downtown, that's
Well-
sure as hell where I would go. I would use the trail to get downtown. I'm
Valid-
not gonna use it to go to Walmart.
Valid point. I
I'm
can't.
saying there's, right now, it doesn't go anywhere.
If we
Those
build
will
it, they
come.
will come.
And all of those pieces will blend at the appropriate time.
But when we get to Garland, we've done all the easy part. Everything after that is going to be difficult.
Good point. And we can achieve it. The staff is committed to providing you your desired end, but we can't answer those questions until we work through that process.
And I can appreciate the frustration with how long it takes to start from, I want to go from France to downtown, to lay it out, to find a plan, to find a route. What are the hassles? What are the obstacles? How do we solve those? Public input, property owners. Our current plan, our strategy, is to continue to pursue both of these routes for the time being to see which one presents the most trouble and which one doesn't.
Sounds like a February 2014 meeting. 180 days is 6 months, Chris. We'll be here.
Yeah.
I think the plan is good.
And I really don't think that we, in this effort, unless the stars align, that you could really get to spending a lot of money on this in the next 180 days, 120 days, because it just takes so long to deal with all these things. There's a light Grand, we can cross it there, you're downtown. Yes, the sidewalks aren't great, but you're there.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess that's our point, is knowing how long it's gonna take. We just wanna make sure that it gets started now, so that in 5 years, we're not doing this again.
I just
And
feel-
it still isn't
yeah.
done.
I'm with Tammy. With the strongest terms, I want to be pursuing this, and it's disheartening for everyone who wants to get there that we're spending all our money for this fiscal year
To go nowhere.
elsewhere.
To go to Walmart. After we've just invested
I understand
$40
the
million
complication,
downtown.
but it
Let's
is
go to Walmart.
disheartening.
That's a great plan.
It'll take time.
Thank you, Chris.
You bet.
We have, Mr. Mayor, we have Councilor Davis, who's expressed a desire to speak to this issue.
Thank you, Commissioners. As I think most of you know, I'm on the Park Board. And we've looked at this project long and hard, and I first want to say thank you all. We are very excited about what you're doing. And I want to stress again, everything going on now is a fantastic set of problems to have, because we now are making great strides in the trails, and I think everybody in the city is excited. One option that I don't think was looked at tonight, you may have alluded to it, Dr. Van Hooser, was perhaps going north along Oakwood Road to the mall, because everybody's right in the sense that the Enid trails are right now a destination trail. People go out and they ride on them, but the benefit Enid has with its trails is that we found so many little gaps in the city that they're also going to provide a very convenient transportation method within the city. And one little bit that I would just stress that perhaps we should look at this year is once we get across Oakwood, heading north to the mall, because it's only a quarter mile, and then we can have a destination tied in for not a lot of money. One other point I'd like to stress is, in considering the option of getting the trail up to downtown, we have thought about that for many years and discussed it. And I think on Park Board, you'd find a consensus that we view that now as an extension of the work, a southern extension of the work that's been done downtown, as an extension of the Arts and Entertainment District, which I've now seen the signs and banners up. I think there's some opportunity to make some green space there, which could have a good spot for a farmer's market. Perhaps if the city ever gets around to doing an aquatic center, that would be a very good spot. Likewise, I know that the city's working hard on getting hotels downtown, and there could be an opportunity for a hotel pad within that site as well. And so what I would encourage the council to do as they consider moving forward with the path to downtown is consider it as an extension southward of the work that's already been done downtown as a complement to what we've done with the Renaissance Center and everything there. So I thank you for your opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Anything else on trails? Item 8.2.
Just ask the question then, so exactly what are we doing in the next 12 months?
We'll bring you back an item for consideration at the next council session. This was an update for you and an update for the public. And it generated more discussion than we anticipated, but we're going to bring you a decision opportunity at the next council session.
Let me ask the question then, the two green lines on our map, the one to Meadow Lake and the one Oakwood to Garland, are there significant roadblocks to accomplishing that? I mean, if we come back at the next 2 weeks and we say, okay, go spend the money, do we start digging dirt, or do we have to another 12-month delay and it'll be Christmas?
Carly, you want to answer that?
We want to go into Red Lake. The design is done, so the only thing is we need to get a core permit. It might take a month, so.
We own the property.
We own the property.
Okay, how about the other direction, the Oakwood to Garland?
We own one property. We got one property. The other property we are working on probably might be like in a month or so. We will be that close to be closing the property. So
Okay.
we can design that part concrete.
So both of those could be significantly accomplished if we made that decision at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Tell me again about the crossing lights on South Van Buren and South Cleveland, please.
Okay. We got engineering firm called TEC, Traffic Engineering Consultant.
Carly, pull that mic over to the front of you. There you go.
Okay.
That'll help.
We got an engineering firm called TEC, Traffic Engineering Consultant, on board. So we had a pre-design meeting. They are going to do a study, which is called counting. I mean, basically next week they are going to start the study of that intersection. The outcome of that study basically tell us is it feasible to put a traffic signal or not, pedestrian crossing signal. So depend upon the outcome, we can go for construction.
While you're, I'm sorry, read through.
When will you have that study finished?
Like 3 weeks.
Good. Thank you. David?
While you're still in the hot seat, there's been a lot of Facebook discussion about either drilling a hole under Garrett or
Van Buren.
Van Buren or going over it with a trail over. Don't both of those present the same DOT issues? I mean, it's not so easy just to say if we had $5 million in our pocket, we could just put a bridge over it. Is that, what's the specifics there?
Expensive.
If I may. There's several of them. Anytime you go over, you have to worry about height, wind loads, structural loads, random vibration from passing traffic. Creates a significant problem. All the designs will have to be approved by ODOT. We received those plans, but from our perspective at this time, it doesn't seem like that would be, a feasible way of dealing with this.
And we're putting in lights, correct? I mean, we're putting in some signals to let people know that the trail is there, correct?
If I may, what we're doing is Rob Camp in Public Works has ordered a set of flashing lights, advanced warning lights, for us to put in because they can be there in a relatively short amount of time. In the meantime, we've got a traffic engineering firm that is experts at this. They are doing the combination of what is the traffic count versus what is the pedestrian count going across that. And based on those numbers and the time of day, that will determine whether ODOT would say that we warrant putting in a pedestrian control light.
Right.
There are a couple of good applications that will really make that quite easily done, where it really won't be like out here where everybody stops for 5 minutes. If we do warrant putting in that light, that advanced warning light will be pulled up and we'll move it over to Cleveland.
I'm a little concerned with that study because nobody in their right mind right now will go cross Van Buren at that site. So if they're going to have a person count crossing it to see if we qualify for that, we need to call out the city and let's go around 100,000 people across it because me and the two children that crossed it with me on Saturday, all three of us about got killed crossing that road. So I won't go back that way again until there is a light. So there's not going to be too many people to count. Only the people who never did it before, like me, maybe. But
my understanding is the high school student teams run that pretty hard.
I've read.
Can we publish the times and dates of the county so we can send the track team across there? Because, I mean, we've got to make this work.
I understand that this is a really busy highway. I get that. But, I mean, what the heck happened to look both ways before you cross the street that you learned when you were 4? There's got to be some personal accountability in this situation, too, because you can't. I mean, we are grown-ups, and most of the people that walk along the trail are not little kids. They know to look both ways before they cross the street. I understand that it needs to be marked, but I think that this whole nobody thought about this safety issue is bunk, because there is some personal accountability when you leave your house every day and you cross the street. It's not any different than crossing Van Buren anywhere else that people all over town choose to walk. The only reason this has become an issue is it's because this is the city-owned trail. Because you know what? People cross everywhere else on Van Buren all day long, and we don't have whole damn newspaper articles about it. So I don't understand why this has become such an issue other than it's owned by the city.
One of them won't, or they'll try to pass, and that's when it becomes an issue because they can't see that pedestrian in front of that vehicle. And I had somebody try to pass me while I was stopped and nearly ran a lady over. And so it's not a matter of looking both ways. It's a matter of just making sure that everyone is aware that somebody is
Are we
trying to
just going to
pass.
keep stopping traffic on our highway for everybody that wants to cross the street? I mean, is that feasible? I guess that's why we're doing the study.
Well, that's why we're doing, that's why we're doing the
steps do we want?
study.
I mean,
That seems crazy to me.
Well, this issue will be decided for us. ODOT will tell us what we can and can't do. And let's wait till we get the results of those to anguish much further on the issue. Let us get you some more data, which is going to define the problem.
Did I address your question, sir? Did I answer your question?
Well, I still don't know whether we need to stack the deck or not. I'm not sure.
I was referencing to a tunnel or a bridge.
Yes, and I think that's important that it be made public, that those are really not options. Those are multi-million-dollar, extremely complicated, ODOT requiring projects that I don't think we really should even have on the table. So let's look at accountability and warning lights, makes some sense, but
Absolutely.
The idea that the city didn't think about it and that we just can cough up a bridge or a or a hole under it is really not practical. I mean, I
And-
understand the issue, having been there. All you got to do is go to the trail and try to cross it. But, you know,
And what
when I'm
compounds,
walking across the street to go somewhere, though, I choose not to cross 5-lane highway.
Well, exactly.
and what
Exactly. I mean,
compounds,
it goes other directions. You
I'm pretty
have
smart
to
and I can
cross
look both
there.
ways, but
Let's see what the survey says.
see what
Yeah.
it says.
Priorities are very easy. You want the street or do you want the trail crossing? Highway 81, to me, is a higher priority than the trail.
I think it has to be either or. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to do
No, no.
something. I mean,
That highway is much more important to the city of Enid.
Nobody's
than the trail.
saying that. I think we're just saying we need something so we
I
don't
agree.
have somebody
I agree.
killed because somebody didn't want to stop.
Good wrap-up, thank you. Any other questions? Item 9, consent.
Yeah.
I think, didn't Dave?
David, did you want to pull
Yes,
one?
I'd like to,
oh my God, too.
again, request we pull 9.2 for separate discussion and would move that the remainder be approved as listed.
Second.
We have a motion to pull 9.2 by David, second by
Whoever.
Dan. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Under item 9.2, consider a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit on Willow Road between Oakwood Road and Garland Road near Prairie View Elementary School.
Can I, let me do it this way. Based on the Metropolitan Planning Commission's recommendation that we not approve that change, I would like to make the motion that we deny this request and leave the speed limit at 45. If we all agree, then we can avoid a lot of
I
discussion.
would second that.
Okay, good, thank you.
We have a motion.
That's ridiculous.
David, did you second the motion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Further discussion or comments? Hearing none, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Thanks, Chris.
Item 10, recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 11, trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting. Item 12, item 12.1, approval of claims in the amount of 83.
Did we do the consent?
you didn't vote on the consent.
I thought that's what David's motion was.
It
Yeah,
was.
it was. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah,
just
should approve
changed-
everything but
changed
that one. Yeah.
Did we not do that?
Yeah, we did.
We did them both.
I had to rethink that.
And item 9.5 is included in that, so. We have recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Move down to item 12.1, approval of claims in the amount of $83,883.33.
Make a motion to approve those claims.
Motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Ron. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We'll now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. All trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority are present. Under item 15, Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $17,550.88.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Mike. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We'll now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Under public discussion, no one has signed up. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Tammy. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Gardner.